One thing that we promised you this last week, you know that we've been going through this big, long process of trying to determine ministry partnerships. And we had 3 organizations come and present. We had Prison Fellowship, we had Arrive Ministries, which is an immigrant and refugee ministry. We had Safe Families for Children come and all present what their ministries do. And our goal was to, as a congregation, pick 2 of them because we wanted you guys to be able to decide, because ultimately, we're all ones that are going to have to be doing this. In fact, we get the privilege of doing it. And so we wanted to get your input in it, and it was really pretty amazing to me. I thought it was going to be a very tough decision, but as it turns out, it was a very decisive vote. And so let me just sort of reiterate how we decided this. We had narrowed it down to these 3 organizations through some criterion that we had when we talked as a board. And these were the criterion. That we must be able to serve in a way that only the church can serve, ministering to physical and financial needs, but also sharing the gospel. In other words, we're a church, and we need to serve like a church. There are lots of great things that other organizations can do, but there's only one thing that the church has that no other organization in the world has, and that is the ability to share the gospel. And so we have to be able to do that. We can't be limited in doing that, whoever we partner with. The second one was that we must be able to develop reciprocal relationships with the people that we serve. In other words, we don't believe that outreach is a matter of us coming in down on those poor people and serving them and helping them, okay? But it's forming relationships, and those are the kinds of relationships that actually transform lives, not just spiritually, but also financially. Because oftentimes when we come in and with all of our goodwill and all of our good efforts, we try to go in and help people, and ultimately what we do is we deny them the dignity of having to have that equal relationship with them. And so what we want to do is we want to form equal relationships with them, invite them into community, and oftentimes the reason that people are in tough financial straits or in other ways is because they're isolated. And so what we want to do is we want to give them a community that will give them the support that they need to be able to get their lives on track. And then the third criterion was the organizations must have a range of ways that people can help, people of all ages, including children, teens, adults, seniors, that all of us can contribute. And so those were the main criteria that we used to determine those 3 organizations. And then we had the town hall meetings. So we took into account all of your input. We had surveys, and then the board sat down and talked. And like I said, the results were surprisingly decisive. But the first one, are you ready for this? You're excited? You're sitting on the edge of your seat? What is it? Okay, Mark, I see you. Okay. The first organization is Prison Fellowship. This one was the one that received the most votes. It's an organization that is committed to helping our criminal justice system restore people rather than just punish them. And we know, if you've studied the criminal justice system at all, you know that this is a real issue in our society. And the great thing about Prison Fellowship is that while the national recidivism rate is about 65%, in other words, people who are in prison are 65% more likely than the general population to recommit and end up back in prison, okay? Which is not good. That doesn't really bode well for any kind of rehabilitation or anything, okay? But the people who go through the Prison Fellowship program and graduate completed, the recidivism rate is around 3%. So you can see the results that they have are really incredible. And so we have the opportunity not just to serve the people in prison, although there could be some mentoring, some Bible studies, maybe doing some worship services, but also ministering to the families of the people, because anyone who is in prison, if they're married, then they have a family. They have kids that are out and they're, struggling for themselves. And so we want to be able to minister to and to serve those families as well. And then when people are released from prison, we can help them with reentry through mentoring and, providing all kinds of supplies and a community for them. And so that's what we want to do. Prison Fellowship, I think, is a great organization. I'm really thrilled to be serving with them. The second organization, now you're really on the edge of your seat, except we probably already put it up there, is Together for Good. I know you guys are really shocked about that, aren't you? Wait, that wasn't one of the 3. All right, so let me tell you a little bit of background for Together for Good, okay? This was a little bit of a surprise move, and if you want to know all the details, then you certainly, I'd be happy to talk to you about it. But basically, Together for Good is the Safe Families staff doing the same thing that Safe Families does, only they had some changes in the organization partway through the process, and so we had Tammy Haveman. Tammy is the one that came and presented for Safe Families. She came to the board, and we put her under the spotlight, and what we decided was that it was so overwhelming that you guys wanted to do the ministry of Safe Families, that we decided that working with Together for Good, which like I said is basically the same thing as Safe Families. They do the same work. In fact, they actually expanded a little bit and work more with the families, with the mothers who are in crisis. Now, let me tell you, for those of you who don't know, what Together for Good does is they actually provide host families for the children of families in crisis. So, in other words, if you have a single mother who has to go to rehab, or a single mother who has to go to prison, maybe, then oftentimes what happens to her children is they get put into the foster care system. And once they're in that foster care system, they're always in the foster care system. I mean, that doesn't mean that they're always with foster parents, but they're always a part of that system, and that comes with its own set of difficulties. And so what the goal is to keep those kids out of foster care by providing a loving host family that can take them for a weekend, for a week, or whatever, and then minister to the mother and to help her get on her feet. And one of the things that I really like about the vision of Together for Good is that they have a real vision to help these mothers who are often isolated to find community with each other. We don't realize, most of us, how much we are, a lot of us think that we're self-made, that we're self-sufficient, but actually we don't realize the kind of support system that all of us have by virtue of being a part of an intact family, by virtue of being a part of a church community, or whatever. And so oftentimes we have a built-in safety net that not everyone has. And so what we want to do is we want to be a part of that safety net for people, and it ends up being 99% single mothers, but we want to be that safety net for those people. So those are the organizations that we have decided to go with. Now, I'm not going to discourage you from volunteering with Arrive Ministries if you want to be a part of the SALT program or whatever. It's just not something that we're going to promote directly here at the church, but it's certainly a great ministry and certainly worthwhile. And so if you want to work with Arrive Ministries, then feel free to do that. But as a group, we're going to focus on these other two organizations. So what's next? Over the next couple of months, we are going to be trying to figure out how to best structure the church to be able to communicate well, to be able to provide, whether it's funds or material support or just support for host families who happen to be working with Together for Good. We want to create a structure where we can communicate well, where needs can be met easily, and the burden doesn't fall on just one or two people to constantly meet all of these needs. And so we're going to be doing that. We're going to be meeting with the organizations. We're going to be finding leaders and point people for these ministries and figuring out how to best do that. And then on September 17th, is our church focus season. That's where all of our small groups study the same thing, and we want to make sure that all of you get into a small group at least during that season, because we're going to do some training. We're going to talk about why the Bible calls us to care for people who are in crisis, calls us to care for the poor and the widow and the orphan, and we'll study that and how best to do that, because I think oftentimes, even with good intentions, we don't do a very good job of actually helping people who need help. And so September 17th, we're going to start that focus season, and that will be the focus. And then we'll begin the partnerships in October. So it's still going to take a little bit before we dive wholesale into these things, but we've still got some more planning to do. I just want to, we'll try to keep you posted on all of the progress that we're making, and if there's anything that we need from you, we would really like to make sure that we vocalize those things to you. But in the meantime, just be praying for those ministries, be praying for us as a church. I think this has a real potential to change not just the lives of people outside of the church, but I think it has a lot of potential to change our church as well. And I think change us for the good. And so let's be praying about this. Let's commit it to prayer over the next few months as we get started on it. I'm really excited about it. I hope you guys are too. I think that's all that I have to say about that. So I want to introduce to you Matt McDonald. Some of you have met Matt McDonald. He's been around here for about a year, and he came over